infamous video of Ray Rice punching his then fiancee in an elevator emerged in 2014. Rice hasn't been able to make his way back onto the football field, but has made several strides in trying to prevent other young men from making the same mistake that he did. The latest, he'll be taking part in the NFL's annual social responsibility presentation to players and staff this year. This is the first time Rice has formally worked with the NFL since the elevator video was released. Rice had this to say about the opportunity to USA Today Sports. Part of life's journey is just being able to tell my story now. A lot of men think it can happen to me. Well, I had a clean slate, and it all came down to a terrible split-second decision. I want these guys to learn from it. I want them to be better for it. I want them to be better men. I'm fortunate enough to be in contact with the league, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to tell it. On that note, we welcome Will Cain back here with us. But Stephen A., I'm going to start with you and your reaction to Rice being part of the social responsibility video put out by the National Football League.
I love it. And not only do I love it, I want to make sure everybody understands he deserves it. Life is about second chances. If you're not incarcerated for the rest of your life, I mean, the bottom line is once you come out of jail, somebody's going to need to give you a chance in order for you to have an opportunity to make a contribution to society. You're going to either be an asset or a liability, and more often than not, we need assistance in that regard. The word compassion comes into play. The word forgiveness comes into play, and that has to be earned. It can't just be granted to you because you think you deserve it. You have to earn it. And when we look at Ray Rice, I think the appropriate level of contrition is something that he has repeatedly executed time and time and time again. He gave a damn good interview to our very own Jamel Hill years ago. He has spoken out publicly about his transgressions. He's been interviewed about it. He's answered question after question after question. He's involved himself in awareness programs to bring awareness to these kind of transgressions that are obviously inexcusable and should never come across as being excused in any way. We all understand that. And so when you look at it from that perspective and you juxtapose that to the Greg Hardys of the world who's never shown any contrition, to the Ray McDonalds of the world who some would say has never shown any contrition, to a bevy of other individuals that we believe or would have liked to have seen show even more of a level of contrition. And then you add to that the upcoming NFL draft and how Joe Mixon out of Oklahoma is expected to be picked up by somebody, and the questions and the storylines that have emanated from that, combined with the hit that the National Football League has taken, there is no doubt that somebody that's been through it, that has suffered because of those transgressions, and can speak to the toll that it extracts from your life because you made those kind of transgressions. That is something that the modern day athlete, regardless of their age or ethnicity for that matter, should be able to relate to. And I love the fact that Ray Rice is playing this role. I have no problem with it.
Yeah, let me say that I understand the point of view some may have. Look, given the video surfacing, he can't run from that video ever. So what are his options really? I understand that, not wanting to give someone credit for something that they really can't choose, but I would say here, good for Ray Rice and the NFL. Ray Rice, who behaved in a despicable and criminal way, and the NFL, who botched the whole situation as badly as a league could possibly botch it, are here doing the right thing. Ray Rice is doing what a person can do. He can never take back what happened in that elevator. That's always going to be there, and the video will also always be there reminding everyone. But he seems to have shown, to me at least, genuine remorse, real contrition about it, and is trying to turn his experience into something to make the world a better place that others would learn from it, not just in the NFL, but beyond. So I think there's real value in that. Good for the NFL and Ray Rice for doing it.
I completely agree with both of you for two reasons. Number one, I think that all of us, as individuals, as organizations, in this case the NFL, have a simple question to ask yourself. Are you a builder? Are you a destroyer? Do you want to throw human beings away when they deservedly might warrant that action? When someone does something like Ray Rice has done, is your only recourse to banish them, to punish them over and over? Or can you help to rebuild people, to bring them back to not just the best they can be, but to being a productive member of society? I would like to think I would choose, when put in front of that situation, to be a builder. Building is harder than destroying, and I am skeptical of anyone who chooses the other path. I think they often do it for themselves. You know, this is a popular term we talk about now called virtue signaling. And those that constantly climb to the top of the heap to condemn others, even when it's warranted, I wonder sometimes, why are you doing that? Why are you so adamant? It feels like it's more about you, like you're trying to prove your own virtue, your own worthiness, rather than actually improve the situation, which brings me to my second point. Max, you alluded to the NFL. Stephen, you did as well. Here's why this is so important today. We think that the right thing to do somehow is almost exclusively tied to the idea of punishment. How many games should this guy get? How long can we get rid of him? How hard can we come down on it? What the NFL's doing here, and the focus of this particular video in this class for rookies, is prevention. It's about bystanders and individuals who could find themselves in situations like Ray Rice. It's learning, how do I never allow this to happen? How do I avoid this path? And that I cannot applaud enough. That's where you make real progress on prevention, not punishment. Punishment has its place in society and on this issue. It serves as a cautionary tale. But prevention, that's where you make real change.
I really like
prevention.
this. Oh, you
Go ahead,
Stephen.
Molly. Go ahead.
I was
Go
going to say,
ahead,
I really
Molly.
like this, and it's solely because he has underwent counseling and he's rehabilitated himself. And what I especially like is that players can relate to him. He's qualified to speak on it, and hopefully he'll garner their attention. And yes, hopefully it is ultimately a redemption story. He's turning his mess into his message. Other players can learn from it. But something else that really stood out to me is he talked about when he was going through this dark time, when this happened back in 2014, and he was facing these demons. He didn't want to ask for help. So what I'm hopeful of is others are obviously dealing with this issue internally, and I hope this empowers them and encourages them to know who and where to go for counseling. That's safe, and I think this is real progress that we're seeing from the NFL.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Go ahead. I want to go back to what Will said in this regard. And listen, I don't enjoy saying this, but it's very important to point out, Will, and I applaud you for your stance in terms of prevention, in terms of giving people second chances. But I do think it's important to understand and appreciate the impact of punishment / ramifications, because sometimes that's the incentive needed to get people to listen, so you can engage in preventative measures and thereby, succeeding in that regard. On far too many, if Ray Rice, and God knows he was as wrong as you can get, okay? But when you look at Greg Hardy and how he was allowed to come back to the league and play, and Ray McDaniel before he messed up again, and Alden Smith, and even though that wasn't any kind of domestic violence incident or what have you, if I recall, it was more, issues with the law. My point is that on far too many occasions, what is a turnoff to the patrons out there, to people that patronize your product, it's not the transgressions alone that really irks folks. It's the fact that people seem to get away with stuff the average person would not get away with.
Yeah, and the idea that you're putting football above all else. Yes, I get it.
Yeah, like the entitled athlete.
And when you send the message and you reel folks back in and remind folks that we all answer to somebody, and we all have to deal with ramifications. Even when it comes to our children, yes, you want to sit up there, and you, as parents, you love your children more than anybody in the world. But if you just let children get away with whatever they want to get away with, they're going to continue to get away with it. Ramifications are very important to point out.
I agree.
And it's important, the individual's response is important. And whether it comes across as authentic is also important. Ray Rice cut his own, through his own behavior, cut his prime earning years, cut his dreams short, and never played the victim once the video surfaced. He hasn't played the victim. He's spoken clearly and publicly in such a way that relates his contrition. He's put that on display in a way that appears genuine and in a public educational effort. So those conditions are necessary, I think, for people to discuss someone in this way once they have behaved the way Ray Rice did. But those conditions are present, it seems to me, in Ray Rice. He can't take it back. This is the most he can do.
props to the NFL. I think they got
I
this
agree.
one right. Will,
I agree.
appreciate you.
Thanks.
See you tomorrow. Coming up, Tony Romo leaves the Cowboys with no Super Bowl titles and only 2 playoff wins. Stephen A. will remind you of that stat.
Oh,
so
boy.
Dak has no pressure now. He's the top dog, right? Stephen A.'s final take coming up on that. And the Raiders are on their way to Vegas, but Oakland not happy about it. So don't miss what Raiders quarterback Derek Carr says about the true fans of the silver and black. And Carr